Welcome everybody to this really very interesting and exciting afternoon. How serious gaming, adding value to water management. We have been advised that the English is lousy, but it bekt lekker. That's why we decided to stick to this title. I want to welcome, first of all for the procedure, this is live streamed on the TV water channel. So if you have problems, then you know that you are being filmed. And there's people out there who are also wanting to join us. Welcome, family of Jetze. Welcome, friends of Jetze, former colleagues, current colleagues, and collaborators and partners. We have some representatives from different continents. We are very happy about that. Also, we have students amongst ourselves. So that is really a nice, unique crowd. It is obvious that the reason for being here is to celebrate the professional life of Jetze Heun, who is retired, but not tired. And that's the good thing. It is, I think, very fitting that we have a program that focuses on serious gaming. And I don't want to waste time, because we have a nice program lined up. We have three presentations, a panel, then we have a break, and then we have, let's say, the keynote by Jetze at 5 o'clock. And thereafter, of course, we have the borrel downstairs. I don't want to waste more of your time. I would like to invite Qiqi Zhou from the TU Delft. She is a PhD student in the group of Igor Meyer, and who is going to defend her thesis early next year on the topic gaming for policy analysis. I want to invite Qiqi to come to the floor and give a presentation on games in policy analysis and water management. Please.
Trying to find it first. Okay, works. Thank you, everybody. And I'm very glad that I can have the chance to meet all of you, to be here and share this very unique moment. I'm doing PhD, as Peter just introduced, in the Faculty of Technology Management and policy making in TU Delft, and I'm also at the same time doing research there about gaming for policy analysis and planning in general. And we have a topic this afternoon to talk about what is the added value of gaming for water management. And I would really like to address this. So first, we drag you out of the water management, but think about the ground challenge. The ground challenge, I mean, the ground challenge of all the topics involved in complex policy making. So it's not only about water management, but also like climate change, energy consumption, and urban planning, and urban development. And all of these topics, they are involved a lot of, we see this long-term crisis, and knowledge uncertainty, and also a lot of social conflicts and conflicting stakes. So we call it, if all these things happened at the same time, and they were aspiring to a very high level of complexity. Maybe you do not see how that happened yet, but I will tell you a little bit more in the later stage. Anyway, because of these reasons, we're thinking about, okay, integration is very important to deal with all of this complex problem. So how? That means we want to address the technically complex issues and the socially complex issues at the same time in an integrated and interactive way. And that also means that we will drag the world of science and also the world of policies into a kind of interactive interface. But in the research world and in the political world, this is not really a new topic. So people are going to talk about already for a very long time about how this integrated water management, integrated planning process, and indirect policy making can contribute. So what we are curious at the now stage is, what can we find something new in this old bottle? Now we can take a look back to the history of how we connect the use of modeling, simulation, and gaming. I do not know whether all of you here are familiar with this, but in general, we mean that we use these computer models and we put people together to play with this kind of computer or use these computer models to try to understand some of these complex issues. For example, how stakeholders, they conflict with each other, how the knowledge uncertainty can be addressed to be more certain and a high level. And the use of this modeling, simulation, and things is going all the way, actually, in this 100 years of policy analysis. So we see a little bit change. But in general, I will say, okay, in the recent years, the use of modeling, simulation, gaming are more addressing to support the interactive participatory policy making analysis. And nowadays we think, okay, and the gaming itself is really a very complex system. So let's use this complex tool to help to address the integrated policy making. So how can I thinking about, or how we can thinking about together this afternoon of the role of gaming to address the transition phase of from interactive policymaking to this complexity, the social and technical complexity. This is what I want to focus on this afternoon. So we all know that talking about science and policy interface is really actually a very difficult task, and some people might think it's mission impossible. Because, like Peter just said, we have different reasoning, yeah? If we belong to the different board, the people belong to the political work, they're thinking about something like budget, like interest, like how to get power. And the people live in the research world, they really want to understanding something until it's really being understood. Even it takes 7 years, 6 years, including myself, it doesn't matter so much. So how can these two different kind of people work together? So some people said, okay, then in this way, we do not regard policy analysis as really a purely scientific topic. We need to rethinking about it in a real-world-based policy-making process. What does that mean? So policymaking is not really about logics, but a lot of messy runs, messy streams, so we can think about a lot of runs. Just continue, never stop. We also can think it's just like streams to have the interweaving moments, or even it's totally a garbage can that put everything, nobody understand what come in and what come out. But I think if all these reasons are true, that we can maybe understand a little bit the integrated policy analysis in 3 kinds of ways. So first, if we're thinking about, okay, a little bit combining with the Chinese philosophy, we're thinking about, okay, this integration can be a kind of yin and yang relation. So you might not understand what happened there, but as long as the yin and yang relation is in the balance, is in the harmonized situation, it's okay. But we also can understand it from a more Western perspective. We call it like a kind of inclusion. Why? Because from the Western perspective, the science is really need to be precise. So we involve a lot of data, a lot of stakeholders interesting together, and we believe that in this way, we always can find a better solution. So if we regard the world of science is a little bit working like the left brain, have a lot of logics, analytical capacities, then we bring a lot of big data and analytical methods together in a model, then we can maybe understand the complexity itself in a better way. Or we also have this interactive, participatory way of doing policy analysis. That means bring all the stakeholders together, share the values, share the beliefs, share the preference. Then we also can solve all the conflicting issues to reduce the complexity of the social events. And then if we bring these two together, then maybe we can solve the things better. But there's another perspective to think, okay, maybe all of these two are not true and cannot happen because the society and the new things is always evolved from a conflicts. Like the philosophers Hegel and Marx, they believe this synthesis is coming out from the conflicts, from the thesis and antithesis, because you never can find a harmonized or a balanced situation between the conflicting things. It's just not true. But if you can manage the conflicts in a proper way, and then maybe the new things, new ideas, and new perspectives will be merged and simulated and stimulated. So we are not judged which way that might work better or might true, but we are thinking about if all of three ways are only just like three faces, a different face of this interactive, integrated relationship of science and policy, then we can think, okay, in a game, we can address all of them because game is like a model. It's like a playful platform that can bring all the actors and all these interesting elements into this model to let it go and let it run. It's an experiment. So we believe if we have the method to address the inclusion type of integration, for example, these big models, or example, the participatory policy analysis, then gaming can add value to bring a more relationship of this inclusion of different interests and elements. And also, if synthesis is the truth, then gaming can also bring value to bring the things, bring the conflict interests together to stimulate something. Why? It's more integration is more like a gameplay, and if we play more game, then we bring more innovation. I think this is the fundamental things if we believe that we're gonna work. And why do we thinking about that? Because underlies the serious gameplay or serious gaming as we addressed today, there's some fundamental principles to make gaming has this possibility to address something in the policy analysis and policy making. So let's thinking about, just do not regard it and relate it to gaming first, but thinking about what is the playing moment of the policy making and in our normal life. So an adult or artist, they can play with any serious artifact. And if they seriously play with this artifact, they produce art and produce wonderful results. Then it's a play. But also, in the policy making, that people can also seriously play with some other artifact. Like we say, it's a design concept, but it also can be a serious political beliefs. If we want to achieve this belief, that we really seriously try different things to achieve that. And also sometimes some of the artifact we can identify it as a game. So if we call it a game, then we call it play a game. And sometimes we also can be non-serious playing with some serious artifact to use this like just laugh at something or the serious issues. And also, sometimes we can seriously play an entertainment game. That's also why we believe serious game works. So all of this big, we call it the big principle of play, how it can make game related to policy making and integrated policy analysis. We say, okay, if we do believe that game have this core value to address integrated policy analysis, then we can build something around any artifact, thinking about models or decision support system or just a simple game. If we all understand it as a kind of artifact, then we can bring this kind of context of play around the model to make it playable and to make it playable. And all this effect around the models will make people like to play with that. So we call it, and in this sense, the game or the artifact itself drag the players into the game and drag them emotionally involved as part of the simulation and as part of the artifact. But only that is not enough. We also have something around the playable model. We call it the condition of play. As I just said, even the scenes itself is very playable or serious. You also can decide, okay, I just play it half-hearted, or I just really play it seriously, or I just play it totally not interested. And these conditions involve the internal emotional involved. I like it, or I do not like it, I hate it. But also sometimes a lot of external conditions. For example, if the boss already decided, okay, you're going to lose. You're going to not get anything if you win, and you will also be influenced. And if all this situation happens in one way or another, it will really influence how the players really play the game. And here we argue that only when the players can seriously play with some playable and meaningful artifact, then the serious gaming play will work. But without the essential condition of play, things will not happen. Even with the most wonderful game or wonderful simulation, it will also not happen. So here, I think I can conclude with some saying. So first, we think why game works. Because in the gameplay, the players, they can integrate different ways of reasoning to meet the unnecessary challenge. So then they can think deductively or inductively or practically or analytically or just interesting based. And only in the gameplay that these things can happen together to confront with each other and thinking about all the different perspective. And also, only a few of the principles already can make a method or approach game like a playful. So it does not matter that whether a game or an artifact need to have all the principles. But sometimes we see, okay, a model with the 3D dimensional environment can already make you excited and play with that. And sometimes a simple card game without any intelligent interface, but just some playful rules also can drag in you emotionally involved. And also, we can create the playfulness around the model simulations, but we also can create the context of play at a macro level. That is, to use the mega rules to address the large policy-making process and how to use these playful principles to make people like to play with each other, like to interact with each other. And we believe combining the play principles and innovative tools, something like the massive online gaming tool and the e-participation or the visual analysis, this kind of innovative tool, they can really bring totally new dimensions to the policy process. So based on this, all these thinkings, ideas, we think, okay, if we go back from history and move towards the future, we can say, okay, now we live in a game generation period, and in these periods, we still do interactive. So the role of gaming is still doing interactive policy making, but we do it in a very playful, complex system. And we can synthesize the different ways of reasoning of the people or from different backgrounds in augmented and mixed reality. And this is the thing that why we think game can stimulate this synthesis, because only in this environment you have these conditions and effect to stimulate the innovative things. Am I still on time? Okay. Because this is my actually last slides. So I think this time is also very unique for me, because my PhD research after 6 years is already at the last stage. So I have this chance to just wrap up my study and the things to thinking about, okay, how can I give a story? And here is my story. And I believe that my book, The Prince in the Castle, Challenge Serious Gameplay for Integrated Policy Analysis and Planning, will be defended early next year. So thank you again for everybody, and I would like also to give honor to Jetze. And yeah, I hope that later we can bring up and have some interesting discussion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Qiqi, for a very interesting and complex presentation. I didn't know you were the princess in the castle. Very nice.